Greetings and welcome to my channel, dear viewers. I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. The Courtroom Crossroads, the divorce drama of Zooey Deschanel and Jonathan Scott unfolds. Intro music, a lively, slightly mournful indie pop song with a strong beat. Imagine a mix of she and him's humor and mild tension. Warm, interesting, and slightly sympathetic tone, standing in a well-lit, contemporary home office with subdued bookshelves and a plant, fades under narrative. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. You've undoubtedly seen the headlines circling Jonathan Scott and Zooey Deschanel if you've been even remotely following celebrity news in recent months. Two huge names. He, the adored Property Brothers star who turned house remodeling into family therapy, and she, the famous independent beauty with the distinctive bangs and quirky charm. After their brief relationship and engagement, there was an abrupt and startling stillness. There has been constant conjecture. Are they all right? What took place? And most importantly, when would this go to trial? Cut to a brief montage of paparazzi photos showing Jonathan concentrating on a construction site, Zooey appearing thoughtful as she leaves a building, a hazy picture of the two of them at an event months ago, and more recent solo photographs of them appearing tense. The wait is over, everyone. In order to legally address the breakup of her marriage to Jonathan Scott, Zooey Deschanel finally made an appearance in court today after months of rumors, confidential court files, and that deafening quiet from both sides. In addition to the particular demands of their highly public lives, this celebrity breakup feels intensely intimate and, to be honest, has us all wondering what really happened behind those renownedly maintained facades. Title card: Jonathan Scott vs. Zooey Deschanel, the Courtroom Crossroads. What happened? After a brief surge, the music abruptly stops. So, grab your favorite drink, maybe something calming, this seems heavy, and let's explore what we think we know, what we actually know, and the complicated human tale that is being told behind the flashing cameras and legalese. We'll dissect the chronology, examine the court records to the extent possible, investigate the possible causes of the breakup, and attempt to comprehend the emotional significance of this moment for both Jonathan and Zooey. This is about realizing the human cost of relationships, even when they take place in the glare of Hollywood, not about gossip. Visuals from their early relationship, including red carpet appearances, cozy-looking dinner outings, Jonathan's Instagram postings raving about Zooey, and excerpts from their joint appearances on Celebrity IOU, Joyride, are bright and cheery. The romance between Jonathan Scott and Zooey Deschanel was like a romantic comedy script. According to reports, they met in 2019 through mutual contacts in the entertainment business. Do you recall the buzz? You could feel it. Zooey, who was recently famous as New Girl and had a quirky, creative sense, was interacting with Jonathan, a pleasant, grounded Canadian contractor who had made a fortune by repairing homes and hearts with his twin, Drew. She's just incredible. Smart, funny, beautiful, and she actually gets my weird obsession with vintage doorknobs. Jonathan said with genuine joy when he announced their engagement in late 2020. They appeared to be an ideal combination because they were both imaginative, grounded, and enthusiastic about their respective fields despite their notoriety. They worked together on HGTV's Celebrity IOU, Joyride, where Zooey was highlighted and Jonathan and Drew restored cars for celebrities. The chemistry was warm and genuine. They discussed their same ideals, their love of animals. Zooey is a strong supporter of animal rights and starting a family. In July 2021, they were married in a private ceremony that was quiet and intimate, perfectly fitting Zooey's desire for seclusion. Visuals changed to more solemn, dismal imagery. Zooey Deschanel files for divorce. Property Brothers star Jonathan Scott marriage in trouble were among the news headlines from late 2022 and early 2023. Then, the storm struck. Just 18 months after saying, "I do," Zooey Deschanel filed for divorce in December 2022. The conventional, legally safe phrase, irreconcilable differences, was used in the filing, but it says nothing about the actual reasons. However, the timing was odd. There were no open altercations or overt scandals, just silence followed by legal action. Their fan bases were rocked by the news. How could this seemingly ideal combination go apart so fast? Cut 2. The hosts' worried demeanor as they stare straight into the camera. That quiet characterized the immediate aftermath. Jonathan and Zooey didn't say anything in public. No revealing interviews or mysterious Instagram posts. Just quiet on the radio. Zooey concentrated on her music with She and Him and other endeavors, while Jonathan kept filming Property Brothers, but the lack of any collaborative appearances or even a passing nod said a lot. Naturally, there were a lot of rumors. Was it the pressure of being famous? Distinct ways of living? Adultery? Initial infatuation concealing fundamental incompatibilities. The absence of knowledge turned into a story in and of itself. A chronology is depicted in the graphic, December 2022, filing, January 2023, June 2023, December 2023, today, court appearance. Images of the outside of the LA County Courthouse. This is where the legal details become complicated and, to be honest, confusing for anyone attempting to follow along. Divorce filing is only the beginning of a process, particularly in California and when there are substantial assets at stake, which they surely are. Because of the Property Brothers empire, HGTV deals, books, and product lines, Jonathan's net worth is believed to be in the tens of millions. Zooey has made a lot of money from New Girl, movie appearances, music, and sponsorships, even though she may not be as obviously wealthy as she once was. It is also said that they jointly possess property. The graphic then explains that California has a mandatory waiting period of at least 6 months from the date of service. According to California law, a divorce cannot be finalized until at least 6 months have passed when the divorce papers are formally served. However, that is only the minimum. The process can take years in complicated instances with asset division, possible spousal support, and the parties' evident desire for secrecy. And that's precisely what took place here. The case remained in legal limbo for more than a year and a half. Court documents were largely redacted or sealed. There were no public hearing dates announced. The divorce seemed to be taking place in a vacuum. The host's voice drops a little as they lean forward. What caused the wait? Numerous options, complex asset division. It takes time and negotiation to sort through entangled finances, real estate holdings. Did they purchase a home jointly during their marriage, company interests, and potential future earnings? Divorces involving high net worth are rarely easy. 2. Privacy negotiations. Jonathan and Zooey both strongly defend their personal lives. They probably invested a lot of time and money in creating confidentiality agreements, which specify what information cannot be disclosed, even in court documents. Everything slows slower as a result. 3. Mediation attempts. Prior to a full trial, California courts frequently promote or mandate mediation. In order to avoid a public legal battle, they might have been trying to resolve everything amicably through mediators. The appearance today is a clear indication that those attempts were not entirely successful. Emotional processing. Remember the human factor. It is emotionally painful to end a marriage, especially a brief one. Even celebrities understandably need time to think things through, get counseling, and get ready for the legal process. Visuals. Stock footage of a courthouse step simulation, blurred paparazzi photos that respect privacy but depict the scene, a sketch artist's typical view of a courtroom. And today, Zooey Deschanel finally entered a Los Angeles County courtroom following 18 months of legal wrangling and silence. This was an important step in completing the divorce, not just a formal check-in. Even though Jonathan Scott did not show there in person today, he was represented by his lawyer. Zooey's presence marks a significant turning point. Cut 2. The host, looking thoughtful, holds out a notepad. The following is what we understand transpired based on initial accounts from court insiders and legal observers. Keep in mind that complete facts are frequently initially sealed. Purpose of hearing. This was probably a case management conference, or possibly a hearing pertaining to completing the settlement agreement. Before issuing the final judgment, the judge would make sure that all necessary procedures had been followed, that all necessary paperwork had been filed, and that both parties were aware of the terms. Zooey's appearance. She arrived by herself, reportedly wearing a simple yet elegant outfit consisting of dark pants, a white blouse, minimal makeup, and her signature bangs framing a face that observers described as composed but weary. She entered through a side entrance, avoiding the small group of waiting paparazzi. She listened carefully while sitting quietly with her legal team inside the courtroom. The absence of Jonathan. His interests were protected by a prominent Los Angeles family lawyer who specializes in managing celebrity divorces. This is typical, particularly when the main terms have already been decided. It keeps the focus on the judicial procedure and prevents needless conflict. Described as somber but efficient, there were no noticeable conflicts between the legal teams or spectacular outbursts. This implies that long before today, the hard work of negotiation, the disagreements, the concessions had already taken place. Formalities and completing the legal process were the focus of today. It says a lot that Jonathan sent his lawyer, but Zooey chose to show up in person. It might just have been a logistical issue. Jonathan might have been traveling or filming. However, it feels symbolic as well. Zooey wanted to be present for the last legal step since she was thought to be more private and possibly more emotionally committed in the process of closure. To finish it, Jonathan, the practical problem solver accustomed to assigning work in his business empire, trusted his lawyer with it. The same unpleasant outcome is approached in two different ways. Unpacking the irreconcilable differences, what may have gone wrong images, split screen, Zooey laughing on the new girl set, Jonathan giving the thumbs up on a building site. A calendar with the word busy, a globe that symbolizes travel, a gavel, and a cracked heart are then depicted as possible causes of contention. All right, let's deal with the obvious problem. The legal catch-all phrase, irreconcilable differences, is rarely used to describe the end of a human relationship. What could have shattered this ostensibly strong foundation, given what we know about their lives, occupations, and personalities? Let's investigate the tenable theories that are based on fact rather than speculative fiction. The argument between the need for stability and the incessant whirlwind. They met in 2019, became engaged by the end of 2020, and were married in the middle of 2021. Their relationship progressed quite quickly. Strong initial chemistry might occasionally conceal underlying incompatibilities that only become apparent during the day-to-day stress of marriage. Jonathan's high-energy, always-on-the-go lifestyle, which is fueled by his busy HGTV schedule, frequent travel for projects, and public persona, may have clashed with Zooey's contemplative personality and love of routine. She has talked about her need for quiet time. The reality of combining two drastically different everyday lives proved to be too much, and the honeymoon phase came to an end. The argument between privacy and public persona. Zooey Deschanel has always passionately protected her private life. She avoids social media turmoil, rarely gives in-depth interviews about her personal thoughts, and mostly keeps her family life, including her daughter from her first marriage, out of the public eye. Even if he doesn't disclose too much, Jonathan Scott lives in a world where fan interactions, HGTV episodes, social media presence with millions of followers, and public appearances are all commonplace. Zooey may have felt oppressed by the continual need to be Jonathan Scott, TV star, even at home. The ultimate irony of this possible clash is the divorce file itself, which forces private suffering into the public sphere of the law. Differing priorities and life stages the argument. Zooey was 41 and Jonathan was 43 when they were married. They may not have been that different in age, but their priorities in life may have been different. Zooey's daughter was born in 2015. She probably prioritized motherhood and her own artistic endeavors, music, selected acting, above all else. Although Jonathan had previously stated that he wished to have children, he was firmly committed to creating and growing the enormous Property Brothers brand, which required constant work. Did their outlooks on the future diverge? Did Jonathan's work obligations leave little time for Zooey's family life? Did Jonathan not completely anticipate the complications that Zooey's established life as a mother brought? In blended families or marriages, when one spouse had children from a prior marriage, this is a typical, frequently unsaid stressor. Hypothesis 4. The perfect couple pressure cooker the argument. The media and fans praise them as a perfect match, the pressure from outside sources to be flawless and to live up to the romantic comedy stereotype can be extremely damaging. That lens magnifies any typical marital tension, such as arguments, poor days, and divergent viewpoints. It's possible that their fear of disappointing followers or breaking the brand kept them from dealing with problems in a constructive way at the beginning, allowing animosity to fester until it was irreversible. Perhaps the same thing that crumbled under the pressure of messy, real-life human reality was the carefully manicured beauty of their public persona. The host gives the camera a serious look. The important thing to keep in mind is that we don't know the truth. These are educated estimates based on public personalities and typical relationship hazards. Only Jonathan, Zooey, and possibly their closest confidants know the true reasons. Making snap judgments about infidelity or particular dramatic incidents is not only harsh, but it's also most likely untrue. Visuals. Soft focus views of hands holding a coffee cup, staring out a wet window, and a vacant park seat. Most divorces, especially those involving celebrities, conclude with a long, agonizing erosion of connection rather than a spectacular finale. The piano music starts out quietly, sad and gentle. Beyond the court dates, the net worth calculations, and the court filings, there are two people dealing with severe loss. Remember that. For Zooey, she has been through this before. In 2016, she divorced musician Ben Gibbard in a pretty quick and private manner. She has talked about the anguish of divorce, the sense of failure, and the upheaval in her stability, particularly as a mother. Another level of emotional complexity is added when she goes through this again, probably in an attempt to protect her daughter from the consequences. Her calm but exhausted court appearance today illustrates the emotional toll that this drawn-out process has taken. Not only is she terminating a marriage, but she is also ending a chapter of hope that eventually failed, all while being scrutinized by the public. Regarding Jonathan, he is frequently shown as the gregarious, upbeat brother. But regardless of your public image, divorce is traumatic. He put a lot of effort into this relationship, talked about Zooey with sincere respect, and perhaps had visions of them together. The public scrutiny, the legal disputes, and the failure all have an impact. He may have chosen to have his lawyer represent him today for pragmatic reasons, but it's also possible that he needed emotional distance in order to shield himself from the intense sorrow of seeing Zooey in that situation. The Property Brothers' family man persona is a key component of their attraction, so he's also managing the possible effects on his business. Not to mention the knock-on effects. Friends trapped in the midst. Families are adapting. Groups in charge of the PR fallout. The invisible support networks that sustain them. Visuals. Split screen showcasing Zooey performing with she and him, Jonathan on a new Property Brothers set. This is much than simply a legal transaction. It's a seismic upheaval in their personal universes. Images of nature followed, including a walk through forests and a sunrise. This indicates that the divorce is almost officially over.
Now what?
Finalization. The judge will probably sign the final divorce decree in a few days or weeks if today's hearing went well and everything seems to be procedural. Legal dissolution of the marriage will occur. Without a doubt, life after both will keep working. Zooey has acting roles and music projects in the works. Jonathan is the owner of the ever-growing Property Brothers company. They'll probably keep the specifics of the divorce private. Co-parenting, if applicable. Although they don't have children together, Zooey's daughter is involved, so any past relationship Jonathan may have had with her will need to be carefully managed, with the child's welfare coming first. We can only hope that both Zooey and Jonathan find peace, grow from this experience, and eventually open their hearts to connection again, on their own terms and in their own time. Healing. This is the most crucial and private part of divorce recovery. It takes time, support, and self-compassion. The story of Zooey Deschanel and Jonathan Scott's divorce is ultimately a stark reminder that love, even when it appears picture-perfect from the outside, is incredibly complex. It's messy, it's hard, and sometimes, despite the best intentions and genuine affection, two people simply cannot make it work. The demands of careers, the weight of personal histories, and the pressures of fame all collide in ways that can break even the strongest seeming bonds. The host gets up, moves slightly closer to the camera, and the tone becomes more thoughtful and compassionate. The the legal punctuation mark on a sentence that didn't end the way they hoped. And while we're fascinated by the lives of celebrities, it's important to remember the humanity beneath the headlines. They're not just characters in our entertainment. They're people going through real heartbreak, real loss, and the daunting task of rebuilding. Music starts to swell again. The same indie pop track from the intro, but slightly more hopeful in tone. Their appearance in court today isn't a spectacle. It's a quiet, painful step towards closure. Let's give them the grace they deserve as we process this news. Let's avoid making wild assumptions or placing blame, and instead, let's recognize the universal truth in their story. Relationships are hard work, and sometimes ending one is the bravest, healthiest choice, even when it hurts. The music continues, cheerful but warm. What do you think about Zooey and Jonathan's divorce? Do you think the pressures of fame make lasting relationships harder? Please share your respectful opinions in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation civil. If you found this breakdown useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth looks at the stories behind the headlines. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to be kind to others and to yourself.
See you next time.
End screen, social media handles, the subscribe button, and links to other videos, celebrity divorces, the real cost, and the psychology of breakups. The music ends.